There comes a time in every person's life when they must decide, once and for all, whether they will be a slave to their emotions or the master of their destiny. That moment does not arrive with trumpets, nor does it come dressed in grandeur. It comes silently, often when the world is asleep, and the only thing echoing in your mind is a question that refuses to die. Is this all there is to me? My answer to you, if you are serious, if you are ready, if you are willing to confront the man in the mirror, is this: no, that is not all there is to you. That is merely all you've permitted to surface, for deep within you lies a reservoir of power, untapped, unused, and undisciplined. But power without discipline is chaos, and chaos left unchecked becomes tragedy. You do not need 10 years. You do not need a mentor. You do not need the approval of your friends, your family, or your society. You need one thing: an hour, 1 hour each day, devoted not to the whims of emotion, but to the command of reason. One sacred hour where your mind obeys you, not your fears. 1 hour where you stand apart from the madness of the world and build in silence the character that will conquer it. The world will tell you success is complicated. It is not. It is merely difficult. And the reason it is difficult is because it demands the one thing most people never give: responsibility for one's own mind. This speech is not a salve for the weak. It is a sword for the strong, and I offer it only to those who are prepared to wield it. Let me ask you, how long will you continue to let the winds of circumstance toss you about like a leaf? How many more hours will you hand over to emotional impulses, reacting to every voice, every noise, every insult, every disappointment, until your life becomes a mirror of everything you've allowed not, everything you've chosen? Understand this, and understand it with finality. You were not born to react. You were born to respond, to rule, to rise. The difference between a king and a beggar is not fortune, it is focus. The man who owns his mind owns his future. The man who lets others rent it has no future, only repetition. Now let us speak of the disease that afflicts 99% of mankind: emotional reactivity. It is a silent thief. It robs men of clarity, women of confidence, and children of vision. One insult, and the average man loses his peace. One doubt, and he abandons his purpose. One moment of discomfort, and he crumbles like an empire without stone. Why? Because he has not been trained, he has not been forged, he has not been taught that emotions, when undisciplined, are not guides, they are tyrants. Let me be crystal clear. Your emotions were meant to serve you, not rule you. They are tools, not masters. Feelings are not facts. Reactions are not truths. And peace is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. He who reacts is weak. He who responds is powerful. He who plans is unstoppable. Let me give you a law of the inner world. If you do not schedule your focus, distraction will schedule your future. And if you do not rule your emotional world, someone else will for their gain, not yours. You may say, but I cannot help it. I just feel what I feel. No, that is the lie you've been sold. The truth is this: what you feel is a habit. What you repeat becomes identity. But all habits are trained, and therefore can be retrained. What you tolerate in your emotional life today will become the limit of your success tomorrow. Now, let us define the way out. The bridge between who you are and who you are meant to become is emotional detachment. This is not coldness. This is not apathy. This is control. Detachment is the ability to observe without surrendering. It is the power to hear without absorbing, to feel without drowning, to walk through chaos with calmness. Detachment is not withdrawal, it is wisdom. There is a reason monks are serene and CEOs are decisive. They understand the same truth. The calmer you are, the clearer you think. And the clearer you think, the more powerful you become. Let us now move from philosophy to discipline. You want to change your life? I say you can change it in 1 hour a day, but not just any hour, a sacred hour, an hour of silence, of solitude, of structure. This hour must be untouchable. No phone, no noise, no audience, just you, your mind, and your mission. What do you do in this hour? You train, not the body, the mind. First, You define your definiteness of purpose. What is it that you were born to build, to become, to contribute? If you cannot answer that, you are still asleep. And no man asleep ever built an empire. Your purpose must be clear, measurable, and emotionally electrified. You do not whisper your purpose, you declare it daily. You look yourself in the eye, in the mirror if you must, and say, "This is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I'm going." Second, you practice autosuggestion. You do not wait for confidence, you command it. You repeat truth until it becomes bone. You write it, speak it, feel it. You replace every lie you've absorbed with the truth you've chosen. You say things like, "I am calm, I am clear, I am focused, I do not react, I respond. I am not a slave to emotion, I am the architect of my mind." Third, you discipline your attention. You write down the 5 most important actions of the day and you do them whether you feel like it or not. Because a man who acts only when he feels like it is a man who will die with his dreams intact but unfulfilled. Let me give you this law. Motion creates emotion. Discipline creates desire. If you wait until you want to, you'll never begin. But if you begin, you'll find that the want comes running after you. Fourth, you reflect. You review your thoughts like a general reviews a battlefield. You ask yourself, where did I lose control today? Where did I allow emotion to override logic? Where did I permit distraction to rob me of my hour? And then you correct it. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because every day you delay is a day you decay. Fifth, you visualize, but not as a daydreamer, as a warrior. You see yourself as calm in the face of criticism. You see yourself decisive in the presence of doubt. You see yourself, each morning, commanding your life like a captain at Shawano, longer tossed by every wave of opinion or fear. Now listen closely. You must understand the principle of thought first. Every action begins as thought. Every empire, every invention, every revolution it began in the invisible realm of imagination before it was carved into reality. So guard your thoughts, for they are the blueprint of your future. Emotional detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you decide what is worth your feelings. It means you don't let anger cost you your peace or sadness steal your time. It means you choose how long you dwell, what you feed, and what you release. The average man is manipulated by emotion. The extraordinary man is moved by vision. That is the difference between a slave and a leader. And it begins with 1 hour. One sacred hour where you cease being a victim of the external and become a sovereign of the internal. Are you ready to become that man? Then mark this law into the stone of your soul. The mind is your only true kingdom. He who governs it shall never be ruled by the world. Now stand, and stand tall, for the next portion of this speech will take you deeper into the fortress of mental mastery, and you must meet it with open ears and sharpened will. Let us now speak of a principle that few have ever dared to master: mental neutrality. What is this concept? It is the discipline of stillness. It is the rarest form of power, known to man the ability to observe chaos without being consumed by it. Mental neutrality does not mean indifference. It means balance. It means the mind becomes a courtroom, not a battlefield. When you are neutral, you do not jump to conclusions. You do not react to appearances. You weigh, you examine, and then you act not from emotion, but from truth. Now listen carefully. A neutral mind is not passive, it is proactive. It anticipates, it calculates, it waits. The man who is neutral in thought is like a sniper in the hill unshaken by noise, unmoved by movement. He knows when to hold, when to aim, and when to strike with precision. In contrast, the emotionally reactive man is like a man charging a battlefield blindfolded, swinging wildly, hoping to win by momentum alone. He is a fool. He confuses movement with progress, noise with victory, rage with strength. Let me declare this eternal truth. Emotional chaos is always a sign of mental weakness. A mind that cannot pause is a mind that cannot plan. And a man who cannot plan is a man who will always be used by others who can. Mental neutrality is the gatekeeper of success. It is what allows you to evaluate without ego, to adjust without shame, and to execute without hesitation. Now, let us proceed further to the power of calmness. There are two types of power in this world. The first is loud, reactive, and dependent on circumstance. The second is quiet, controlled, and utterly unstoppable. The first fades when opposition rises. The second grows stronger under pressure. You must become the second. Calmness is the cradle of clarity. A calm man sees the storm before it comes. A calm mind makes decisions that echo across decades. Calmness is not softness, it is precision. It is the posture of a general, not a pacifist. You may have seen this before. A man is insulted and he lashes out. He defends himself emotionally, not strategically. He wins the moment but loses the war. His pride cost him peace. His reaction cost him results. But the calm man, he listens, not because he is weak, but because he is powerful enough to wait. He knows time is his ally. He speaks when it counts, he acts when it matters. And when he moves, the world listens because he did not waste his power on emotional outbursts. Now let me give you a warning. The world will test you. It will poke at your emotions. It will bait you with disrespect. It will try to provoke your pride. And the moment you take the bait, you lose your power. So what must you do? You must install a mental checkpoint, a moment of stillness between trigger and response, a breath, a pause, a question. Is this worth my peace? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. And in that pause, you become free. You are no longer a puppet of emotion. You are the puppeteer of purpose. Do not mistake this for weakness. It takes far more strength to hold your fire than to spray your ammunition at every shadow. The weak man yells, the strong man thinks, and the strongest man chooses silence until action is necessary. Now let us march onward to the principle of thought first. Every effect has a cause, every outcome, a beginning. And in the realm of human achievement, that beginning is always a thought. Thought is the seed, emotion is the water, repetition is the sun. Together they grow a tree of character. And that character determines the fruit you reap at success or failure, power or weakness, legacy or regret. The man who understands the power of thought knows that everything he experiences, good or bad, was first permitted by the mind. Poverty begins in thought, so does wealth. Loneliness begins in thought, so does leadership. Chaos begins in thought, so does calm. So the question becomes, are you thinking intentionally or are you merely remembering your past and calling it thought? Most people do not think. They replay. They react. They recall old wounds, old stories, old limits, and confuse that with reflection. That is not thinking. That is reliving. And reliving the past while expecting a new future is insanity. Real thought is intentional. It is forged, not found. It is shaped like a weapon. The successful man asks, what do I want to create? And then he thinks in alignment with that creation. He does not allow random emotions to design his destiny. Let me now reveal to you one of the most powerful truths you will ever hear. He who thinks first wins. In business, in life, in love, in battle, he who thinks first always wins, because the one who thinks first determines the rules of the game. Everyone else merely reacts to the game that he created. So train yourself to pause, to think, to act from vision, not from pressure. Because once you master your inner world, the outer world becomes irrelevant. You must begin to observe yourself like a scientist. You must ask, what emotion is arising within me right now? Is it useful? Is it necessary? Is it aligned with the man I wish to become? And if the answer is no, then you must replace it not with repression, but with redirection. You cannot kill emotion, but you can guide it. You cannot eliminate feeling, but you can channel it into action. Now let us explore another critical law, the law of response versus reaction. A reaction is automatic. It is emotional. It is instinctual. A response is deliberate. It is intelligent. It is conscious. Reaction is the domain of animals. Response is the realm of gods. You must stop reacting to life and start responding to it. If someone offends, you pause. If a deal falls apart, pause. If fear arises, pause. Why? Because your first impulse is rarely your best move. Let me be direct. If your emotions govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if your thoughts govern your actions, you command your future. You may say, but I've always been this way. Then I say, change it. But my parents were like this. Then I say, rise above it. But the world makes me angry. Then I say, stop giving the world your power. You are not your triggers. You are not your past. You are not your patterns. You are what you choose to become, and you become it in the space between stimulus and response. That space, that sacred pause, that is your throne. That is where kings are forged and leaders are born. Now hear this loud and clear. A man who cannot rule himself will be ruled by everything else. And a man who rules himself, his thoughts, his emotions, his impulses is free. Not free to do anything, but free to do the right thing at the right time with the right mind. That is freedom. Not chaos, but command. And it begins not with a week, not with a year, but with 1 hour. 1 hour a day devoted to mastery. Mastery of thought, mastery of feeling, mastery of purpose. That hour is your altar. On it, you sacrifice distraction, you sacrifice weakness, you sacrifice excuses, and in return, you receive clarity, power, destiny. Let me now teach you a sacred ritual I call the hour of inner command. It begins with solitude. No noise, no input. You sit, you breathe, you become aware of your thoughts not to judge them, but to understand them. Then you write, what must be done today? What cannot be compromised? Who must I be to deserve the life I claim I want? Then you speak to yourself. You affirm what is true. You remind your mind, I am calm. I am clear. I am in command. I do not chase emotions. I chase excellence. Then you execute. You begin your day with precision, not chaos. You act from the throne, not the crowd. And finally, at the end of that hour, you reflect. You ask, did I live aligned with my standard today? Did I respond like a king or react like a child? This hour will feel foreign at first. You will resist it. Your distractions will call. Your phone will buzz. Your old self will whisper, you can skip today. And that is when you must remember, every time you say no to the lesser voice, you become the greater version. Discipline is a vote for the man you wish to become. Each hour invested is a brick laid in the foundation of a future the undisciplined will never know. So I ask you again, are you willing to change your life for just 1 hour a day? Then do not wait. Begin now. There is a temptation that rots even the most gifted minds. It is the temptation of comfort, the desire to feel good rather than be good, to be entertained instead of enlightened, to be pacified rather than purified. And I will tell you this truth with no apology. Comfort is the great seducer of potential. The man who chases ease avoids excellence. The man who indulges every emotional whim becomes a stranger to greatness. So if you are serious, and I speak now only to the serious then, you must reject the modern gospel of comfort and embrace the timeless creed of character. You must treat every hour not as a moment to be filled, but as a kingdom to be ruled. For each hour you govern with discipline becomes a soldier in the army of your destiny. And each hour you surrender to distraction becomes a traitor in the camp. Let us now speak of self-discipline. It is the master key. It is the root of all mastery. Without it, your mind is a feather in the wind. With it, you become an architect of fate. Self-discipline is not punishment. It is precision. It is the ability to do what must be done, whether or not you feel like doing it. It is thinking first, feeling second, and acting with resolve. Let me give you this. The undisciplined man chases moods. The disciplined man obeys principles. The undisciplined waits for motivation. The disciplined man creates momentum. The undisciplined life is a cycle of starting and quitting. The disciplined life is a highway of progress, paved with habits and guarded by clarity. Now let me be precise. Self-discipline begins the moment you say no to yourself. No to comfort. No to distraction. No to the lie that you deserve to rest when you've done nothing worthy of fatigue. The highest act of power is self-command. To say, I will, and then follow through. That is the mark of sovereignty. Not crown, not title, not applause, but private obedience to your own highest vision. And do not think for a second that you are born with it. No one is. Self-discipline is a muscle trained, not inherited. It is built in obscurity, in small, repeated decisions, in moments when no one is watching. That is why the hour of daily command is so essential, because it becomes your training ground, your private battlefield where you conquer the enemy within so that no enemy without can touch you. Now, let me tell you something that may make you uncomfortable, but I say it because I love the part of you that wants to rise. Your success is not about what you do occasionally. It is about what you demand from yourself daily. A man may dream of empires, but if he cannot master his hour, he cannot master his life. Show me how a man uses his silent hour, and I will show you whether he will rule or rot. Self-discipline also demands accuracy of thinking. This is a sacred law. You cannot build with warped tools. You cannot design your future with delusion. Truth is not what you want it to be. Truth is what is. And only those who face it calmly, clearly, courageously earn the right to rise. Most people confuse thinking with reacting. They mistake agreement for understanding. They consume information but never examine it. They parrot opinions but never penetrate ideas. That is not thought, it is mental mimicry. Accuracy of thinking means you scrutinize your beliefs. You ask, is this thought serving me or enslaving me? You analyze emotion like data, not dogma. You track your patterns like an engineer tracks performance. You do not assume, you assess. The emotional man wants to feel right. The accurate thinker wants to be right. The emotional man argues. The thinker inquires. The emotional man defends his pride. The thinker dismantles his ego to pursue clarity. Now here's a principle most will never accept. You are not entitled to your emotions. You are responsible for them. That means you do not get to act out and call it honesty. You do not get to rage and call it authenticity. You do not get to drown in fear and call it humility. You are not a victim of your feelings. You are the curator of them. Every thought you allow is a visitor in the house of your mind. Every emotion you nourish is a seed planted in the garden of your destiny. You do not allow weeds and then complain about your harvest. So I ask you, what are you planting? Are you planting the discipline of accurate thinking or the chaos of emotional indulgence? Are you feeding the tree of truth or the thorns of excuse? And I will tell you this. Excuses are the language of the emotionally undisciplined. A man who is mentally clear makes plans. A man who is emotionally reactive makes excuses. I was tired. They were unfair. I didn't feel like it. These are the chants of the defeated, the chorus of the small, the songs of those who worship comfort and resent greatness. But the disciplined man says, yes, it was hard and I did it anyway. Yes, they doubted me and I moved forward. Yes, I was afraid and I showed up. That is strength. That is royalty. That is the language of kings. Let us now move to one of the most sacred principles in the library of success, personal initiative. This is the fire that separates leaders from followers. It is the refusal to wait, the refusal to be told, the refusal to shrink while opportunity walks by. Personal initiative is when a man rises before the sun and says, today I create. It is when a woman sees a problem and says, I will solve it, not wait for someone else to care. It is when a soul says, no more waiting. I will begin. I will build. I will lead. You do not need permission to become excellent. You do not need applause to be focused. You do not need consensus to be correct. If you wish to be truly powerful, let this truth be carved into your spine. You must become self-initiating. You must generate your own fire. If no one supports you, support yourself. If no one believes in you, believe anyway. If the path is blocked, make a new one. If the doors are closed, build your own building. Personal initiative is not loud, it is consistent. It is the steady decision to do the work, become the master, walk the path without waiting for permission or applause. Let me remind you, every great man was first ignored, then doubted, then opposed, then revered. But it all began when he said to himself, I will begin now. So do not ask the world to believe in you. Ask only that you do, and then act like it, every day, for 1 hour, until the world can no longer ignore what you've become. There is one final element I must place into your hands. It is the foundation upon which all else rests: character. Success without character is corruption. Discipline without character is tyranny. Power without character is danger. It is character that makes your discipline noble, your calmness honorable, your detachment just. Character is what you are when the spotlight is gone. It is the reputation you hold with yourself. And if you do not trust yourself, no achievement will fulfill you because deep down you'll know you cheated your way there. Now, let me tell you something no modern voice dares whisper. The world is not your enemy. Your own lack of character is. Because when a man is ruled by pride, lust, envy, fear, and impulse, he can win the world and still rot inside. But when a man has tamed himself, when he has forged a moral code sharper than any sword, he becomes incorruptible. That is what the hour gives you. Not merely goals, not merely clarity, not merely strategy. It gives you contact with the deeper self, the self that is not reactive, not insecure, not desperate for validation, but the self that is eternal, the self that is still, the self that watches and waits, the captain within you who does not chase the storm but commands the sea. And when you meet that self each morning alone, in silence you begin to remember who you were before the world taught you fear. Now let me take you deeper. There is a sacred place within you, a throne. But most men never sit upon it. They abdicate. They hand it to others, to fear, to emotion, to past regrets, to social opinion. They live their lives as servants, reacting to external weather patterns, never realizing they are meant to command the climate itself. You were not born to bow to your emotions. You were born to rise above them and use them as tools, yes, tools. A man who understands himself can use anger for justice, pain for wisdom, sadness for depth, and joy for influence. But the key is this: you must own them. They must never own you. Now listen to me carefully. This is the point of transformation. Everything up to now has been preparation. There will come a moment, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps in a week, when your emotions will rise like a wave. Your old self will whisper, "Just this once, fall back." And in that moment, you will have a choice. Not a choice of circumstance, but of identity. Do you react like the man you were, or respond like the man you are becoming? In that hour, in that precise inner pause, you are forging destiny. Because life does not change when the world changes. Life changes when you change, not externally, internally, at the level of response, at the level of identity, at the level of character. If you are waiting for the world to get easier, wake up. It will not. You must get stronger. You must become so grounded in purpose, so disciplined in mind, so unshakable in response, that nothing, no insult, no failure, no loss can move you from your center. Because only from that center can you build something eternal. Let me ask you again, what if 1 hour a day could change your life forever? Not hypothetically, not metaphorically, literally. What if you gave yourself without excuse, without failure, without deviation, an hour of mastery each day, to train, to think, to become, not for others, not for applause, but because you refuse to go to your grave with potential still locked inside your bones? Do you want peace? Rule your emotions. Do you want wealth? Master your habits. Do you want freedom? Command your mind. You do not need to fix the world. You need to master yourself. Because when you do, the world bends not because you forced it, but because it was never meant to rule you in the first place. Now let me leave you with this. Every day you hesitate, the older self tightens its grip. Every day you delay, you lose time that will never return. Every hour you waste is a vote against your future. But every hour you command is a declaration of war against mediocrity. You were not made to crawl. You were made to stand. You were made to think. You were made to build. You were made to rise. But only if you are willing to detach from the noise, to discipline your impulses, to dominate your distractions, and to give yourself fully, faithfully, fiercely to that one sacred hour. So rise, rise earlier, sit deeper, speak less, think more, command your space, rule your time, and become the man. The undisciplined will never meet the man who does not beg for greatness, but becomes it. And when that hour ends each day, You will not return to the world the same. You will walk among men, but you will not be one of them. You will be something rarer, quieter, sharper, calmer. You will be the master. And the world, whether it knows it or not, will follow your lead. Now go. Begin today. Your throne is waiting, and just 1 hour a day can change your life forever.